background of how I developed this project. When I got the fellowship and we were looking at projects, I was trying to figure out, okay, where could I do the best work with my students, where it would help me with a project, because I needed a project, and two, that they would have a good outcome from it. One of the things I noticed after having taught TA for physiology a couple of semesters, they had to do writing projects. And I noticed that whoever wrote well at the beginning were the same people who wrote well at the end. And it didn't matter how much critique, how much information, how much teaching I tried to put into helping them write better, there was not a lot of improvement over time. So having done some research, one of the things that I came upon is that science writing is a little bit different than regular composition writing. That when we write a paper, it isn't necessarily just to tell a story, but to convince somebody and present an argument. And that's a skill that you can't learn without practicing. So I thought, okay, so this is one way to start it. There's research that also shows that peer review is a good way for students to help each other learn, because they're talking to each other in a language they understand. So they're talking to each other than being spoken at via a teaching mechanism. So what my project entailed was, when they wrote their lab reports, when they brought them to class, we would trade them around and they would peer review each other's lab reports. They were given instructions on what to look for, and they would basically grade each other, critique each other, and then turn it in. After I graded it, I'd give them back. They could read my critiques as well as their peer comments as well. So today, I'm going to give you a scenario, and you are going to write a protocol of what you do to get up and out in the morning. Okay, all of us get out of bed at some point. Maybe afternoon, so I'm not going to hold you to it being morning. So whenever you get out of bed and you decide you're going to get to wherever you're going, most people routinely during their work time period follow the same routine. We're pretty scheduled people. So think about what your personal routine is, write a protocol so that if you give it to me, I could go home and tomorrow follow your protocol and reproduce what you did every morning to get ready. I want you to work in teams, probably about 5 minutes to write out your protocol, and then you guys are going to share it with your partner, and they're going to review what you wrote to see if it's clear what you wrote, that it is in a logical order that you can actually follow, and that it's reproducible. How did you feel doing this?
Fine.
Did you feel like you had enough information to do what you thought was an adequate job?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I was hearing questions like, how do you want it in bullets? Do you want, time? Do you want... When we do activities with students, we have to make sure that before we send them off to try and do them, that we give them specific instruction on how to do it. Usually, most of their questions came up on, like, how do you want it critiqued? What do you want us to cover in our critique? So when I developed the project, I gave them what I thought was good instructions, but it turned out to not be as much as they needed. So that was one of the pitfalls, that if I go to do it again, I'm going to make sure that I have a little bit better training at the beginning. For instance, maybe walking them through a review so that they understand exactly what is expected of them on a review. How did you feel writing a review for a peer? Were you comfortable with that?
Yes.
I found with my research that most of the students were pretty comfortable giving critiques.
But you gave their criteria too. You said clear and reproducible. So
if you understand those terms, then it was clear. But sometimes when we're speaking with students, terms that we might use aren't always evaluated the same way per student. So it's good to give, this is one of the critiques that I got back from a student was, a very clear example rather than just telling them what I wanted from them, to give them an example of what I wanted from them, and then that they would have understood better. They caught on as time went on, but the first couple of times, they just didn't feel like they had enough training. And then when you receive feedback from your peers, how'd that feel? Was that comfortable? Oh, you didn't? You didn't read it. So what I'm wondering is, when you read the feedback from your peer, I noticed some of you talking already. So did it made it easy to kind of like, oh yeah, maybe I should have said this, or oh yeah, maybe I
Put it in a different way.
Right, so it helped you see a better way to maybe have written that out without just getting, a bloody paper from an instructor saying, this isn't appropriate, this doesn't reach what we were expecting from you.
May I say something? It's more than the critique. I think that it's really useful to read the other's protocol, in the sense that when I read it, I say, oh, I should say
Exactly.
that. Oh, I should say that.
Exactly. In fact, research has shown that the reviewer learns more than the person that's getting reviewed. That they have a greater learning curve because you see it from somebody else's eyes, the same kind of thing equipped.
So what's the lowest grade level do you think this sort of peer review critique?
The peer review, they use it in elementary school. That's what's great about this kind of an activity. You can gear it to whatever level that you want to use. One of the articles that I was kind of copying their methods from used it for English as second learners to help them learn how to write in English because they could learn the terms but learning the grammar. They felt like they came away better when they hear the feedback from a peer as opposed to from an instructor. But you can just change the level of the activity. But any time that students are working together in a group and it's defined for them, you're going to get